All right, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much again for joining us. Today, we are joined by Andrew Davis, VP of Marketing from Text Us, our amazing partner. Guys, we got something really unique in store for you today. Today, we have a masterclass on how to use SMS and email to keep your deals moving. Super incredible stuff. Super excited to hear all about it. Make sure you drop in the chat, all of your LinkedIn's. I'll be posting mine. I'll be posting Andrew's. Also, just because they are a text company, I'm going to drop a phone number where you can actually text Andrew any questions afterward, feedback, all of that good stuff. So make sure you utilize that. But I won't take up all of your time. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Andrew, who's going to talk us through.
Awesome. Thanks, Gina. Really appreciate it. I'm going to pull up my my slides here and we'll jump into what we're all here for. All right, so make sure I've got this all going. Like Gina said, my LinkedIn will be in the chat as well as a unique phone number. We'll talk about that in a minute and everything. Would love to connect with everybody, learn what you liked, what you didn't like, everything along those lines. But I just want to welcome everybody. I'm Andrew Davis, VP of Marketing at Text Us. I'm really excited to be here with our partners at RevGenius. To talk about a challenge we probably all kind of face in the sales and the marketing arena, which is keeping deals moving through pipeline. I know we're here at the end of quarter, Q1 for most of us. If you run on a calendar fiscal year, and it is always a fun one to start the year, and so we want to keep those deals moving. Let's be real, guys. We spend weeks, months nurturing prospects only for them to go dark, it seems. Emails get ignored, calls go unanswered, and before you know it, a hot lead turns into a cold lead, which is never fun. So what do? Do you spam them more with email? Do you call them again and risk annoying them, especially at the wrong time of day? We'll talk about that in a little bit. And you know, do you just constantly annoy them? No. There's a better way to do this. You meet them where they're at. So we'll talk a lot about that. Before we jump into the agenda, I'd love to warm up the chat. I see a lot of people are putting in their LinkedIn and everything. I'm going to move to the agenda slide here in a second. But while I do that, why don't you go ahead and throw in your role and in your industry and where you're from, so I can do my best to tailor today's conversation to those industries if possible. Text Us has thousands of customers from a bunch of different industries, and I just want to know who we're talking to today more than anything else. So today's agenda in this session, after we get through some housekeeping items, we're going to dive into how SMS and email, when they're used in combination, can improve response rates, create some urgency, and keep deals moving. We'll cover the best timings to send those messages. We'll craft what we call some high converting sequences that can be used universally. Can be used email if you want, can be used on SMS platforms, whether it's text us or not. And we'll cover when we should use automation versus using manual touch points in one-to-one conversations. Plus, I'll share some real-world templates with you guys that you can apply right away, and point you to some resources that are really valuable. So, okay, awesome. I'm seeing some chats coming in. We got Danielle, marketing automation manager from Southern California. We got John, a regional sales manager from Florida. He's in software sales. I hear you, buddy. Close out that Q1. We've got Jacqueline. She's putting in her LinkedIn, so love it. So now, can you guys put in the chat while we jump into the housekeeping? What are some challenges that you guys are running into right now? Are you being ghosted by your prospects? Are your open rates on emails just too low? Are you getting voicemail constantly? Why don't you put in some of your challenges and we'll get through the rest of the housekeeping items. As far as those housekeeping items, it goes without saying, but keep yourself on mute, please. It's 2025. We all know how to operate webinars and everything. I don't even think you can come off mute if I'm being 100% honest, but if you can, or you find some sneaky way to do it, please don't. we want to stay on track for today's conversation. Use the chat room. I've already pushed you a bunch of times to do it. Please keep doing it. I love to see them coming in. And I can't promise I'll get to every question. We do have time at the end for it. So if you have one, please ask it. I can't promise I'll get to all of them, but I'll absolutely do my best. Again, you can always text me or message me, and I'll get back to it. The last thing is really important in today's day of webinars. I have no intention of doing a demo for Text Us with you guys. I'm vice president of marketing at Text Us for a reason. I'm not a salesperson. I failed miserably at sales. So hopefully you were not expecting that. If you do want a demo of Text Us, I would recommend you take the super easy route and just go to textus.com/demo and sign up for one. One of our really cool team members can walk you through the platform. Like I said, we have thousands and thousands of customers. I promise you, we have not run into a use case that we haven't heard of or seen before. So if you want to take a look at that a little bit more, feel free to take that route. At times, I will call out Text Us as what we can do. So when we're talking about sequences, we have some screenshots and stuff that you might want to take a look at while we're talking through it. But again, I do not plan on demoing this product. Real quick about myself and Text Us, our lovely organization that I've had the pleasure of being part of. I've spent over a decade in B2B SaaS technologies, a lot of time in the HR technology space, specifically payroll and benefits administration, some really good success in the home services and contractor software space, recently in the manufacturing software space, and now engagement tools like Text Us, and have learned a ton about where we want to go and what technologies are going to move the needle for us. So my biggest partners in all of this decade plus of experience has been sales. I work extremely closely with sales leaders, sales team members like AEs and SDRs, because at the end of the day, I care about pipeline creation. Leads are great, and marketing's really good at creating leads, and they start that process, they start that funnel. But if we are actually converting those leads to pipeline, does it really matter at the end of the day? It's not really where the rubber meets the road for business, and we really try to focus more on like what's actually going to create real opportunities for all of us. I actually tried sales earlier on in my career and failed miserably at it, so I moved to marketing. So hopefully all you salespeople out there are kind of joking and laughing at that a little bit. Marketers and salespeople are very similar. It's just one happens to be really good at rejection and one doesn't. I'll let you guys guess which ones those are. As far as communication, like we said, my LinkedIn's on here. That's the phone number you guys can text me, 720-722-8790. That is my Text Us phone number, so it flows right into my application. I'm happy to respond to any of you guys. I can't do it right away, but I'll do my best to get to it here shortly after the webinar. If you have any questions about the product, the webinar, marketing in general, would love to have a conversation with you. As far as Text Us goes, we're pretty straightforward. We're an SMS engagement platform that empowers users to create and convert more pipeline. We get leads, contacts, customers, whoever you're trying to talk to, we get them to respond and engage with you through the power of texting. So let's jump into the content of what we're going to talk about today, which is the usage of email and texting. And let's look at marketing versus sales use cases right now. These are things we talk about a lot in marketing and sales meetings, and the different needs for different users within the organization and how they want to use SMS and email. So let's start by breaking down marketing and sales use cases for SMS specifically. So in the first example, the example is right out of one of many resources we have on Texas's website, of course. A marketing use case where they're using our campaign feature or a campaign feature to send messages to home buyers looking for homes in a specific price range. So an SMS goes out, has a keyword automation response associated to it. So if they respond with yes or no, an automated message goes back to them and follows up. Nope, that's not a manual send, that's an automated send. And marketing can bulk message send that out to a large number of contacts, usually at the top of the funnel or ones that have gone cold or anything along those lines. Sales messages below that is a little bit longer, a little bit more detailed, but more personalized with specific data that's designed to start the conversation. So the sales use case is sales outreach is more personalized and interactive. The goal is to start conversations. The goal is to book meetings, push deals forward. Whatever your sales process is, it's to keep them going, right? It's that one-to-one communication. SMS is great for quick follow-ups, meetings, checking in on proposals or any negotiations that you have, and also reviving cold leads, people that you talked to 4 months ago that were like, yeah, send me over the pricing, and then they just never hear from them again. I'm pretty sure every company's number one loss reason is no response. That's just a constant trend that I have recognized in my career. And so reviving those cold leads and really getting them to kind of respond. As far as the next example, we will see a marketing sending a message about golf gallery. So in this instance, it's a hypothetical golfing company that's hosting an event for customers. You can see this is designed to go out to large audiences with a strong call to action of RSVPing to the event with an automated going through. Yes, Tim, I see golf, love golf. And then sales is focused more on the one-to-one and ends with an open-ended question, looking to get an answer or an engagement. Hey, do you have time? Do you have a moment to talk about this? Does this interest you? Never just a, hey, here's some information, hope you respond kind of thing. The key takeaway here is while marketing messages are often one-to-many, sales messages should feel one-to-one, right? So if you're an ABM marketer at all on this call, you've got different levels of marketing where it's like one-to-many, one-to-few, one-to-one. Think of marketing as that one-to-many, and think of sales as that one-to-one. You want to have those personalized conversations for sure. All right, so let's talk a little bit about marketing and sales with SMS and email differently. So how do we use these two differently, right? It's important to understand these distinctions because of how we want to structure those, right? So marketing is focused on those large audiences at one time. It's very action-oriented content with either keywords or links associated to it, right? And it's not really open-ended content with a question. It's more of a action-based, like I said, with those keywords or those links associated to it. And then auto responses based off of those actions, right? So it's focused on large audiences, action-oriented, not open-ended, and auto responses. So as far as sales goes, on the other hand, the sales communication is about personalization and interaction, right? It's about building a direct relationship with that prospect, right? And I'm not telling the sales guys that are on this call, the salespeople that are on this call, anything they don't already know. But the things that you should take away with this is shorter copy is very easy to digest. All right. We live in a time where our minds are going crazy. We're scrolling on social media. Some of us have kids and it's going nuts. Like I need the bullet points, right? So go short, right? Sales messages is quick and to the point. The goal is to start a conversation and not overwhelm the prospect with too much information at once. Let's get a back and forth going, right? Don't feed them everything that they need right now. A simple text like, hey, John, saw you downloaded our case study. Want to chat about how we can help is all you need to do to see if you can get an engagement in the middle of the funnel. It's more effective than a long-winded approach. Open-ended questions to prompt a response. So unlike marketing messages that push an action, sales messages should encourage dialogue. Instead of just sending a link, sales reps should ask, what stood out to you about our product, or what's the biggest challenge that you're having right now? This invites the prospect to engage and make it easier to build rapport with. The third thing is personalization. Personalization, you'll hear me say it a bunch as we go through the content. Personalization is really important. Sales messages should be directly tied to the prospect's behavior. If they're visiting the pricing page, if they're downloading a report or attending a webinar or anything like that, your outreach should reflect that. So something like, hey, John, I saw you checked out our pricing page. Would love to chat with about what you're looking for. Got a few minutes this week, basically, right? So the big takeaways here on the marketing and sales use cases is that they should complement each other and go hand in hand, but they should not compete. Marketing nurtures and educates. The sales team personalizes and builds those relationships and brings it across the finish line. So if you're a marketer, think about how you can help your sales team by delivering some of this, those high intent, engaged leads through smart SMS and email automation. If you're in sales, use SMS as that conversational tool, not just another outbound channel, not just another, hey, I'm going to spray and pray type of hope somebody responds to this kind of thing. ask questions, engage prospects, follow up based off their actions. So it's worth the extra 30 seconds to go in and look at that record in your CRM and say, okay, did they go to the pricing page? Did they download this piece of content? If so, what was it? Don't say, hey, I saw you downloaded a piece of content. Say, I saw you downloaded this guide, or I saw you watch this webinar, right? It just engages them a little bit more. So when to use SMS versus email. And trust me, there are times where you want to use these differently. And being from a texting company that does SMS, right? Like I want to sit up here and say, always use texting. Don't ever use email, right? Like email's the enemy. It's not true. Email is a very good channel that is effective when used at the right times in the right spaces, right? But a well-timed SMS message can be the difference between closing a deal and losing it to a competitor or losing it to no action at all. For example, if you're in a meeting, well, can't get one of my slides to go here. Here we go. I'm gonna just pull all this up for you guys. For example, if you're sitting in a meeting and you send an email 2 days in advance, but then you send a quick message 2 hours before the call, that's a really good use case. That's a really good use case for messaging. This is something we do here at Text Us, where, hey, we've got, you book a meeting with us, it goes out, sends an email, hey, we're good for tomorrow. Just as a reminder, this is coming. But that little extra touch of like, hey, I'm about to meet you in an hour. Hey, we're about to connect in 30 minutes. Are we still good? Thumbs up, thumbs down with like an emoji really can increase your conversion rate of getting those people to actually show to the demo. Same with proposal follow-ups. Don't just send an email and hope for the best. Send a short message, 1, 2, 3 days later. Hey, John, wanted to check in, see if you have any thoughts on that proposal I sent over. Let me know if you have any questions. It's simple, effective. It keeps deals from stalling, right? So what you see on your screen here are, new lead outreaches. Day 1, you want to send an email introduction, right? Day 2, follow up with the SMS. It's complementing the email. Email, people are still used to email. I know everybody says it, as marketers are like, SEO's dead, email's dead, all that type of stuff. It's dying. Email is dying because there's so much coming in. But if you bring in complements like SMS, for example, it's actually going to be helpful to send both messages. You're kind of hitting them in both their inboxes. Then meeting reminders, send 48 hours before. SMS, send a reminder 2 hours before, and then deal follow-ups, of course. Proposal recaps, pricing confirmation, feedback on the demo even would be good. Hey, I know it's been a day. How'd you feel about our demo? Did we answer all your questions? Is a really good follow-up from there. So jumping into why sales and marketing need better communication. Let's move into the reasons for that, right? They don't need communication between each other. If you're a good organization, your marketing and sales teams are talking. If you're in the sales organization and you're not talking to your marketing team, start talking to your marketing team. Trust me, it'll make a big difference. If you're in marketing and you're not talking to sales, go talk to them. They're right on the front lines. They're the best people to talk to learn, to make adjustments, to understand what's working and what's not working, right? But if your strategies solely rely on emails and phone calls, you are going to be fighting an uphill battle, right? Buyers are drowning in emails, they're drowning in voicemails, and even now, you guys know on your cell phones, whether you have a Samsung, a Google Pixel, an Apple iPhone, whatever it is, they leave a voicemail and you can see what they're leaving in voicemail in real time. You can actually read it, right? And so they can flesh things out really, really easily, right? So here's some interesting data points for you guys to take a look at, right? So these are the 3 main channels that sales and well, mainly sales, but marketing's operating in a bunch of other areas like advertising and stuff, but that's not inclusive of this. So these are 3 channels of communication is what I'm trying to say here. Email, cold calling, and then SMS engagement, right? You can see email's response rate is 5% on a good day. On a good day, it's 5%. Cold calling, if anybody's ever done cold calling, which I have and was not good at it, which is why I'm in marketing, plenty of you out there are probably still doing it. Your meeting rate is 2%. If that, maybe a little bit worse, maybe a little bit better if you're really good at cold calling. And then I definitely want to talk to you. So if your cold calling meeting set rate is higher than 2%, shoot me a text on my number. I'd love to pick your brain on what's working for you guys. But SMS, it's so clear on the data. We talk about this all the time. SMS engagement is way different than the other 2. Open rates are 98%, response rates are nearly 50%, right? So compare that to email, where even email can get on the high end upwards of a 30% open rate, and that's considered great. Text messages open rate is consistently in the 90 plus percentile, closer to 100 than it is 90. 50% of that time when they receive it, they will reply, right? And if you have automations associated to that, where it's like, hey, reply with this on the marketing side, those keyword automations, that most likely will go up. And if it's one-to-one communications, most likely you've already engaged with them and you're just continuing that conversation. That's why top performing teams are using SMS and email together. SMS creates the urgency, email provides the detail, and when you combine them, they create a seamless journey for your prospect. So why do deals stall? Like, why are they running out? Well, these are some of the main reasons that I've run into in my career with our sales teams of why are they going anywhere, right? And it's like kind of the dreaded 4 of them more than anything else. Delayed responses, people don't get back in time. The prospect gets overwhelmed with emails. They get overwhelmed with a lot. Pricing, are they making the right decision? Things along those lines. Lack of follow-up urgency. We're not sending emails fast enough, or they're just enrolled in a sequence in email and it's not personalized or anything along those lines. And then the big one is loss of interest. And usually the loss of interest comes from the lack of communication, the lack of consistency through the deal process more than anything else, right? And so keep that interest going. One good thing that you guys might be able to do with email and texting, but I bet you texting would land a lot better, is if you're messaging, if you think your prospect is losing interest or may lose interest, spend 30 seconds a day just sending them a message of being like, oh, hey, John, did you know? Like, our product can do this. And I remember you told me about XYZ, and I just wanted to call that out for you. I'm not sure if we had a chance to cover it yesterday. And then the next day be like, hey, I just talked to a client who's getting X%, or improved ROI with our product. Like, just, I had you in the back of my mind, John, right? And it's just keeping that loss of interest at bay and keeping them engaged in the deal process simply just through sending a text message, right? So it's a really highly effective way to continue the conversation more than anything else. So how do we balance email and SMS? They have each one of them has their place. Email is great for longer, more detailed messages. It's perfect for proposals, nurturing or drip campaigns, educational content, anything along those lines, right? But it's passive. It sits in an inbox waiting to be opened. They can open it and never have to respond. Technically you can do that for any channel, but email is notorious for this, right? If you remember the previous slide, it was a 5% response rate with a 30% open rate. So there's a time and a place for email. SMS, on the other hand, it's a very active communication channel, right? It's immediate. It's the nudge that gets a response. It's why it's worked so well for follow-ups, for reminders, quick check-ins, constantly keeping that interest, that loss of interest at bay. So these are the main reasons of when email should be used versus when SMS should be used, right? SMS is that one-to-one communication style more than anything else. If you're sending an email to a new lead and you follow up with a text the next day, hey, John, saw that you checked out our email. You got any questions? Happy to chat. Like, every platform does that, right? Like, if you're using an Outreach or a HubSpot or a Sales Loft, anything like that, like, you're gonna know if somebody opened that email. Like, most of us get that notification up in the right hand corner of our browser, right, or on your phone if you're crazy like me. So they opened it. Just send them a text message. It's not hard. It's very, very easy. All right, so let's get into, okay, all right, Andrew, like, texting makes sense. Like, how should I use it? What should it look like, right? There's some really valuable stuff in the next couple of slides. I said earlier we would include sequence examples that you guys could take today if you wanted to. So I know a recording of this is going to go out to everybody. Feel free to take screenshots of any of these. I also have a resource for you guys once we get through the sequences that you guys can take a look at and follow up with as well. There's a playbook associated to that. But how do we create sequences that are high converting? Well, let's build a couple of them. So how do you build it? Messaging matters. Whether it's email or SMS, how you structure your message determines what you get in response, or if it's ignored, right? So the key is personalization, right? No, hey there, or dear customer, or anything along those lines. Use their name. We have the technology. Use their name. I think they're called tokens in a lot of the marketing platforms. Fame and text us. Use their name. Reference past interactions, and keep it short. SMS should be under 160 characters, and email should be scannable. They even have these features now in HubSpot and some of these other email platforms that's like your scannability of your email, it can be tracked, right? Texting, it's so easy. It's keep it under 160 characters usually is a good rule of thumb, right? Do not send walls of text. There are really three strong rules to kind of live by here, right? It's personalization, be brief, and have a strong CTA, right? Your tone is also important, which is why I have it in here. Don't sound like a robot or literally copy and paste anything from an AI bot like ChatGPT. Spend 5 minutes putting your own personality into it, and trust me, you'll get the result that you need. But those three simple rules are personalize, be brief, and have a strong CTA associated to it. Don't just say, let me know what you think. Instead say, hey, reply with yes if you want some more information, or when would be a good time to meet, right? Click here to schedule a call. People need a little bit of nudge, right? It's not the end of the world. It's being assertive with your prospects. So let's look at some of these real world examples. The GIF that you guys see down here are just screenshots of what we do in Text Us that can do all these things. So personalization. We have a little, one of my favorite features in Text Us is the spam tracker judge, where as you're writing your message out, it actually takes into consideration what you're writing and says, hey, is this likely to be spam or not, basically, right? And it helps you craft the message basically so that you know it's going to be delivered at a really high rate, because there is spam regulation when it comes to texting, and you do have to be aware of it. So it's a really cool tiny little feature. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you guys weren't seeing it. There it is. Yeah, it's a little bit like that. You can select first name, add in that personalized information, make it super easy, send the text, and there you go. All right, so sequence number 1 for a SaaS company, right? The purpose here with these is to start the engagement, right? Establish communication and a discussion in the channel that makes sense for your prospects. So this is a 4-touch sequence. The initial contact is on day 1 through a text message. You can see the content here, right? The second one is day 3. So 2 days later, you have a follow-up that's through a message. And it's different, obviously, than the first message. It's not a, hey, did you get my message from before? It's a little bit different from there. Step 3 is an email follow-up on day 5. Specific its subject line. As you can see, it's not as brief as the text. It's a little bit longer. Has a couple call to actions in there where you can insert links, talk about pain points. Again, the personalization is important across both channels. And then you have your last attempt on day 7. It's a 7-day sequence, and it's kind of that personal, non-robotic approach. So I don't want to keep bugging you, but I think it's important that you see this. Let me know. Second example is a drip campaign, where we have message 1 is, I've noticed we haven't connected in a while. Are you still looking to solve X, basically the pain point that your product solves? Day 2 is 3 days later, an SMS with a content offer. So drip campaigns usually come with resources and value associated to them. Whether it's a downloadable asset, a YouTube link, even, hey, I saw this, I thought it was really cool, something that your marketing team put together, or something along those lines. And then message 3 with a final nudge. Hey, if it's not the right time, that's fine. Just reply next, and we can get moving. Otherwise, best of luck, right? Kind of just gives them an out if they want, but it's a quick drip campaign for you. The next one, the purpose of this one is to keep the prospects engaged during meetings. So most of you probably have sales cycles that most likely require multiple meetings. I would imagine in a SaaS environment, definitely. So we've got a 4-touch here where we send out an SMS on day 1, but then day 2 we come in with a case study via email. Specific call outs, and then I can see the email now in my head, where you have specific call outs, and then allow them to read more if they want to dig into it a little bit more. You check in 2 days after that on day 5 with an SMS, and then you have a final call to action push on day 7 if they don't respond. The cool thing about sequences and Text Us specifically, I can't speak to other texting platforms, but the thing about Text Us is it's very similar to an Outreach or a HubSpot with their sequences tool, where if somebody does respond, they're unenrolled, right? So if they respond to your day 1 message and you guys start having a conversation, don't worry, they're not going to get day 2 email. They're not going to get obviously because it's in a different platform, but they're not going to get message 3 on day 5, the SMS check-in. It's going to be your one-to-one communication at that point. I saw Andrew just ask a question. Andrew Hamilton, can these text messages be pre-scheduled to send? The answer is yes, they can. Your individual messages can be, or your sequences can have timings related to them. And then the last one, deal closing. This one is a 4-step as well: SMS, email, SMS with urgency, and then a final check-in. The purpose here is to encourage prospects to make a decision, take action, and move forward. Don't just keep stringing them along. You want them to make an action. These are just 4 examples, you guys. There's some free resources on our website. There's tons on there. These are just 2 examples that I pulled for the relevancy of this discussion today. We've got a guide that drives more pipeline and accelerate sales, and then a big business texting playbook. We've got industry specific playbooks. If you just go to textus.com/resources, you can find so many of them. So feel free to take a look. Ping me if you have any questions. Shoot me a text if you have any questions on any of them. But those were examples that are in those resources. But there are a lot more. There are a lot more playbooks and resources that you guys can pull. It's not a situation where it's like, hey, you get set up with texting. It's like, good luck, go. Like, there are plenty of templates and resources. In Texas, you can actually load templates, just like we saw. You can load those templates in and then have personalization associated to them. So when you're going to send, like, let's say somebody no-showed you on a demo or something along those lines, you can actually pull a template of a no-show demo and just have them follow up real quick on that. You don't actually have to write the message out, especially if it's a really commonly used message or template. Moving on to kind of wrapping up the sequences here with some key frameworks. So personalization and relevance, obviously, this is an area that you want to focus on. Make sure they're personalized. Make sure what you're sending them is relevant to what they engaged with your brand, whether it's content related, pricing related, anything along those lines. The hook value call to action approach. Make sure that there is a call to action. Make sure that you are focused on urgency. Make sure that it's compelling as well. And make sure it's simple too. I think I had that in there. Yeah, provide simple. Make sure it's simple because texting is a quick channel. You want it to be easy for them for sure. And then the last thing is timing and frequency. So SMS is ideal for those quick engagements and follow-ups with the open rate. Email is best for in-depth content, nurturing, layering messages, a little bit more detail associated to them. All right, jumping into automation versus manual. So if you remember at the beginning of the conversation, you guys, we talked about, hey, there is a time and a place for automation, and there's a time and a place for not automation, right? And there absolutely is from a sales use case for sure. So when to use automation versus manual touch points. So automation is powerful. It's great for those meeting reminders like we talked about, re-engagement campaigns for cold leads or leads that went cold or lost opportunities from last quarter, follow-ups on unread emails. But it comes to high value deals or handling objections. That's where the personal touch comes in. So if you want to bring a deal across the finish line, most likely automation is not going to do that. If you're sitting at the 1 yard line, it's going to be a pretty personalized message that you write out. It's usually not going to be a template. Good rule of thumb here is automate the process, not the relationship. So let automation do the heavy lifting so that your team can focus on high impact conversations. So meeting reminders on automation, meeting reminders, follow-ups, unread emails and unresponsive messages, and then re-engagement campaigns and nurture drip campaigns is great for automate. And then on the manual side, custom deal discussions, addressing and overcoming objections, closing those high value deals and getting everything across the finish line when you're in what I would describe as the red zone, right? So there's a lot you can do with Textless on the automation and manual side. I enjoy the manual side. It's a very personal conversation back and forth. It's really cool, especially the Chrome extension. I love going through that and having conversations back and forth, and using the platform for that. But there are also sequences. So in this example here, it's quickly building a sequence that you guys are probably familiar with in email platforms, where it's like, hey, how many days do you want to wait until this one? You know, what step in the process do you want to do here? Is a quick and easy process, not difficult at all. As far as common SMS and email pitfalls, and there are some, trust me, it comes down to kind of three main ones. Too much outreach is just as bad as too little, right? It's so annoying. I don't know if any of you guys have this, but my mom loves to cluster text. She's a cluster texter. And what that is somebody who literally sends a thought and then sends another thought and sends another thought and another thought. And before you know it, I have like 18 missed text messages on my phone, right? And I'm just like, Mom, just put it all in one message, right? Just send it to me so I can respond, or like do the like emoji or whatever it is, right? But it just blows up my phone because I think like something's wrong when I hear my phone dinging in the other room, right? Find a healthy balance. Don't send too many emails or texts. It comes across as a little bit desperate, a little bit of annoying, and it's not super personal at the end of the day. So avoid sending too many of those. Another mistake: don't send messages at weird hours. Right? This is weird. Like if you wouldn't call somebody at 11 p.m., don't text them either, right? This one also comes across as desperate, and no one really likes the feeling of a salesperson chasing them who's desperate for the deal, right? I went into a jewelry store years ago, and the person was like, hey, do you want to sign up for our club card? And I was like, no. With this young lady, and she was like, please, I'm desperate. And it was just like, I'm going to leave. This is kind of awkward, right? It's the exact same feeling during any sales process, right? So don't do it in the middle of the night, especially when if they wake up in the morning and they have a text message from one of the salespeople they were working with. Like, that's just weird. Don't do that. Do it during business hours. If there's time zone differences, I think there's a little bit of leeway there, but stay away from the night hours for your prospect. And then automation is a very beautiful thing. We love it. Marketers love it. It's absolutely saves so much time. But if it feels robotic, it probably is, right? So make sure you're personalizing those automations. Take the extra 20 minutes when you're setting them up, and make sure the thought is really worth the outcome, right? So a little bit of personalization goes a long way in the automation process. So I want to wrap it all kind of together for you guys. So I'm gonna do some final takeaways for you here, and I'm just gonna pull them all up. If you walk away from anything today, it's really these 5 things that are going to help you more than anything else, right? So SMS equals speed and engagement. It's all about immediacy. With a 98% open rate and a 50% response rate, it's the fastest way to break through inbox clutter and start those real conversations with your prospects. If you're relying on only email, you're likely missing out on opportunities where a simple text could have made the biggest difference for you all. Think about it this way. When was the last time you ignored a text message? Unless it was from a political campaign, because I think we all got annoyed from those last year. But if outside of that, have you ignored a text message, right? Like even a response with a thumbs up, like, yeah, so-and-so liked this message. It demands action. Like some people even have anxiety over it, not me, but some people have anxiety over it. I'm not saying go create anxiety. I'm just saying it can happen. Email is for depth and nurturing, right? It's not necessarily about speed. It allows you to nurture those relationships over time, provide long form content like case studies, proposals, downloadable assets and guides that you think would be valuable, templates to kind of educate that audience. But the challenge with email, as we said, it's passive. It sits in an inbox waiting to be read. It doesn't create that immediate need for response, man. If you guys saw my inbox right now from an email standpoint, you'd be like, Andrew, how do you function, right? Because I just have so many unread emails in there. But if you text me, way different conversation. I'm responding almost instantly, it feels like. The third one is the right message, right time equals more deals closed, right? So sales is all about momentum, as you guys probably know and feel. A strategic mix of SMS and email prevents deals from stalling. If you wait too long to follow up, the leads lose interest. We want to avoid the loss of interest. You move on to your competitor, or they simply forget about your offer, right? I always balance it too of like, if you're offering a necessity or a necessity, keeping that interest is really important. A necessity is things like communication tools, CRMs, workflow automation softwares, anything along those lines that keep your business operating on a day-to-day. Texting is one of those. It should be one of those, right? A necessity is like what I would describe as like deep analytical data that's not, your base level Tableau or anything along those lines. AI integrations that help you do XYZ. They're necessities, but they're not actually necessities, meaning that your business would function. The lights would turn on without it, basically. So if you're selling a necessity, make sure that you continually are keeping engaged with your prospects to avoid that loss of interest, right? So an example is a prospect downloads a case study. Instead of just sending an email hoping they engage, you send a text that day. Hey, saw you checked out our case study. Did you find anything interesting in it? Happy to chat about it. The small tweak dramatically improves response rates and gets that little nudge to move them across the finish line. Automation and personalization equals the winning formula. Automation alone is not the winning formula. Personalization alone is not the winning formula. You combine those together and it makes life a lot easier, makes it feel real, makes it feel like a human connection. And then from there, they can fall out of the automation and go to those one-to-one communications. The best strategy, automate the routine process, but personalize those key interactions like we've talked about. People buy from people. Make sure your messaging reflects that. And then the last one is measure and optimize. Finally, none of this works unless you track and optimize. You wouldn't run paid ads without looking at your click-through rates or your cost per conversion or anything along those lines. Like, why should SMS and email be any different? Monitor those key metrics, those open rates, response rates, conversion rates, see which sequences are driving the most engagement, A/B testing different things, testing messaging, testing call to actions, anything along those lines. Constantly be refining that approach and get the best results, and then measure those results, right? If you're just in the ocean swimming and you're not measuring anything, like, you're never going to find land, right? That's kind of like my metaphor when I explain it to my marketing team. Like, hey, we're all trying to row in the same direction here. If we're not using analytics are our compass. It's what's going to get us back to land, basically. So our final closing is if you are experiencing challenges of being ghosted, if you're experiencing challenges of low response rates, or you just want to increase your engagements, help you close more deals, continually moving them forward, I think a combination of SMS and email is for you, right? Find where your deals are stalling and then implement those, these tools to try and move deals further down the funnel for you, because it's a momentum-based thing. It's kind of like when it rains, it pours type of thing. Once you find something that works, you'll continually add on to it. So I want to thank everybody for being here today. I hope you found this valuable. I hope you learned something today. If you didn't, text me, let me know. I'll refine this approach, and let's move into a Q&A. I've got you can drop your questions in the chat, and let's talk about how we can apply some of these strategies to your sales process. Quick thing, if you guys do want to learn more about Text Us, feel free to just go to textus.com. Feel free to check out our website. There's contact us on there. There's demo requests. There's tons of those resources, like I mentioned. So lots of information on there. And then, of course, you can always text me or message me on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andrew. That was really insightful. Like, just automating and all of that good stuff. Like, it's such an underutilized tool. I really do think. So we do have some questions that are filtering in right now. First one came from Andrew Hamilton, but it looks like Bohan had actually answered it, but I don't know if you want to go ahead and go over that. It said, can these text messages be prepared ahead of time? The answer was, if you consent, double opting in, otherwise it's not compliant. So I don't know if you want to expand on that any, but just letting you know that was the first question that was answered.
Yeah, my only expansion on that will be compliance is a very heavy focus for Text Us, right? So 10 DLC compliance, for example. So you have to have opt-in, you guys. You can't just be spamming people left.
It's just randomly text somebody.
Yeah, you can't just randomly text. Well, I mean, you can,
yes,
it's going to flag in our system, and then the carrier, so like Verizon, AT&T,
Mhm.
Twilio, any of those carrier, like they're going to recognize it, and most likely after a certain amount of time are going to shut that down for you
Gotcha.
relatively quickly. So yeah, please be in the compliance. We have tons of resources on 10 DLC compliance. You can prepare text messages in advance, but those contacts need to be opted in contacts.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you for that. The next question comes from Tim. Any tips on collecting phone numbers in the first place if a potential client isn't making that available in the beginning?
Um, Yeah, this is always a tough one. So we always ask for phone number on the form. I know there's this rule in marketing, Tim, where it's like the more fields you ask for on a form, the lower your conversion rate goes. I'll be honest, over the last 3 years, I haven't really seen that to be the case. What I have found is as you add more fields to your form, the more serious your buyer is. So your conversion rate may go down, but most likely your qualified opportunity rate will most likely go up because you have that extra information and you know that buyer is most likely going to show. But to answer your question, one thing that I've done in the past is we've done what's called progressive profiling, which you may be aware of, where if we don't collect phone number in the beginning, right, we try to get them into a phone number collection nurture or drip campaign, which is a combination of different pieces of content that progressively build their profile. So if you're missing their you obviously have their email, but if you're missing their let's say their job title, their phone number, anything along those lines, you can do progressive profiling where it's eventually designed to get their phone number. And then if you're using opt-in language and following 10 DLC compliance correctly, and they check that box, then you're good to go from a messaging standpoint. So you could do a progressive profiling a drip campaign that's a combination of different pieces of content, like clips from webinars, gated content, anything along those lines.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Our next question comes in, and if I mispronounce your name, please forgive me. It's either Banjo or Banyo. How does A2P 10 DLC work for non-US residents? How does Texas solve this issue? Great.
It's a great question. I don't know if I can fully answer it for you, honestly, because Texas is serviceable in the United States and in Canada with different compliance rules for different for the two different countries and everything. So I don't necessarily know outside of the United States, but 10 DLC compliance is pretty straightforward in the United States. Like you got to have opt-in and you can't spam. You got to have opt-out options as well in the email, or not in the email, sorry, in the message. Yep.
Awesome. Ashley, we have a question from Ashley. How do you handle leads who are frustrated that you're reaching out to them if they don't provide their info in a form or downloaded, i.e., you got their info through a pixel? Another
Why?
great question. Guys, these are great questions.
Yeah, that's a great question, Ashley. The short answer is I don't. I don't use I don't use a pixel that gets their information without them filling out a form or providing their information. I understand why some industries do that. I don't do that for a bunch of different privacy law reasons. My only advice to that is I would lean heavily on email because email is an opt-out channel. So all they need to do necessarily is unsubscribe. But kind of the best advice that I could probably give you is if they're telling you, "Hey, I'm frustrated with you reaching out," they're probably not a good prospect for you right now anyway. So just enroll them into a drip campaign and focus on the ones that aren't frustrated. If all of your prospects are frustrated with you for reaching out to them, you might want to find a different way to build your funnel. Sorry.
Awesome. Thank you for that candidness. Our last question that we have here comes in from Kailuka. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm horrible with first name pronunciations. You'll have to bear with me. When you talk about personalization, does this only relate to contact first name or does it go a step further?
No, personalization goes steps further, right? So you've got your typical stuff like first name, last name, company name, job role, things like that come in a bunch of different platforms, like a HubSpot and a Text Us and things like that. But then there's that next step of personalization where it's content download or insight information, right? Contact and insights. So did they visit a page? What webinar did they watch? How long did they watch it for? You have a combination of tech stacks to do that with. And I think that's when it gets into the one-to-one conversation where you take it out of automation at that point, and you start talking about, hey, there's you watched this webinar. Hey, I saw that you watched the first 30 minutes of this webinar, right? My favorite part was XYZ. Like, did you have any questions related to it? What prompted you to kind of watch that, right? Hey, I saw you downloaded this piece of content, right? Like, those are all personalizations that are done on the manual side that we talked about and less on the automation side. But that kind of takes it the step further of making it a more personalized than just, hey, what's your first name, enter your company name, etc.
Awesome. We do have another question from Andrew, and he asks, do you bill per user?
Nope, we don't, Andrew. We are a volume-based pricing structure. So we have unlimited users in Texas. So you can have as many as you want. It goes down to how many accounts or phone numbers do you want to text from? Those types of phone numbers, whether it's short code or 10-digit, and the volume that you want to do. Do you want to send 8,000, 9,000 messages a month? Do you want to send 50,000 messages a month? The fun thing about texting is the inbound messages are free. The outgoing messages are not. So if you ever talk to a texting provider that's charging you for inbound messages, I would highly recommend you leave that conversation.
And text Andrew.
and text me because it's all outbound messaging and it's on a per volume basis.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. All right, guys. Audience, any more questions for Andrew before we wrap? Some housekeeping that I did forget to mention earlier, guys. This is being recorded. You will receive a recap email to everyone who registers, so feel free to forward that to your coworkers if you think that they would be interested in learning more. Also, if not, the recap page where they can watch it ungated will be up at revgenius.com/events. Give us about 24 hours to get this up for you guys. Manuel says, thank you. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you all. I really appreciate being here.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us this afternoon. Thank you again to our amazing partner, Texas, and the amazing Andrew for joining us this afternoon and keeping us up to date on how we should better utilize text us and SMS messaging. So awesome. Thank you, everybody. Andrew, again, thank you so much for being here. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your afternoon.